Well, good morning. Happy Tuesday, and I hope you're having a great day. Beautiful morning outside this morning. 73 degrees, little slight breeze, a little bit drier, so it's really nice. I understand we might get some rain over the weekend. That would not be too surprising because we are still in monsoon season. But right now, it seems like things are drying up a little bit, and the mornings are very beautiful. And just love this time of year. Absolutely love this time of year. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Couple announcements that I have. First of all, as far as birthdays go, we don't have any birthdays today. I was looking at the COVID stuff. So the FDA approved the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine for actual full FDA approval. It had an emergency use approval, but now it's got the full approval. I don't know what that'll mean. I think the people who are not getting vaccinated, I'm not sure that the full FDA approval is really gonna, change their mind one way or another. As I've talked to people who are not getting vaccinated, and I've talked to a few, it's not really necessarily for the ones I've talked to, it's not the FDA approval. It's the idea that they're just not sure of the long-term effect, and they're in a very, very low risk group. Perhaps they're very young, and they don't see. And I think there's just a lack of trust altogether in the whole process. So it's hard to build. Once trust is gone, it's hard to rebuild it. And I don't know. For me, the reason why I think a lot of people don't trust government is. As I've talked to them, it's that there's a lot of conflicting information coming out. There doesn't seem to be a lot of it doesn't seem to be care for the people as much as it is that our particular group or political party has more control. I mean, it's kind of a mess out there, and I just I would continue to lift up all of our people who are elected, that they would stop and pause and think what is best for the country, and not necessarily, I'm not talking about, people. I'm not making this as an indictment of the current administration or the past administration. I'm just talking about people in general who work in government. My prayer for you is that you at some point realize, that it's healthy to have good debate and good discussion, but ultimately, when you throw the other party under the bus or throw particular people under the bus, that's not helpful for the whole entire community. Because no one's perfect. None of us make perfect decisions. And sometimes we make decisions that are very difficult. And, do you think during a pandemic or, all sorts of different reasons that we would come together more than we do, but we seem to get really highly partisan, and that helps to lose confidence in government. Let me put it that way. The interesting thing, I was looking at the numbers here. This is number of cases per day, and the first wave peaked out in June of last year at 5,000 cases per day, and right now we're sitting at about 3,800 cases per day. So you'd think that that's not good. It's not. And then if you look at hospitalizations, we see that, I think we'll see maybe that hospitalizations, oh my goodness, they're under maintenance starting right now. Well, there you go. I guess I can't show that. Of course they go under maintenance, right? But basically the third wave of hospitalizations was not as bad as the first wave. It's not proportionally the same. And then deaths is still very low. So the good thing about all of this, even with all the variants and all that, is that we've seemed to understand how to treat this a whole lot better than we could a year ago. So if you do by chance get it, and you do by chance get hospitalized, I think you will have much better treatment today than you did a year ago. So that's very wonderful news. My prayer is that you don't get hospitalized. Like for my age group, if you get COVID, there's a 1 in 400 chance of dying, according to the data that we've seen so far. That's pretty high. So I would highly encourage you that if you're 55 years or older, that you get vaccinated. If you are if you're under 20, I'm not sure, that one I don't know about. But if you're over 55, I would definitely get vaccinated. If there is long-term effects, you're 55. I'm pushing 60. So I understand that my risks are what they are. So let's see. And we're planning to meet all week, so that's good. We're getting into some really exciting things. I can't think of anything else that I want to talk about, so I want to just go right into the Bible study this morning. We are in episode 61 of our study, Exodus, God's Great Rescue. And we left off yesterday talking about the different pieces of stuff that go into the temple. There was the altar, the basin that we wash in, there was the incense. All the pieces are now set up. So God has told Moses what he wants, the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, and all the different components. He all has that lined up. And now it's time to kind of get it done. So now we are going to just continue reading in chapter 31 because God even has more instruction, but it's an interesting instruction. So let's just go into this. So Exodus 31, beginning at verse 1. Then the Lord said to Moses, "See, I have chosen Bezalel, son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, and I have filled him with the Spirit of God, with wisdom and understanding, with knowledge and with all kinds of skills, to make artistic designs for work in gold, silver, and bronze, to cut and set stones, to work in wood, and to engage in all kinds of crafts. Moreover, I have appointed Oholiab, son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan, to help him. Also, I have given ability to all the skilled workers to make everything I have commanded you, the tent of meeting, the ark of the covenant law, and the atonement cover on it, and all the other furnishings of the tent." So let me just stop right there. So now God is not only given the dictate of what it's all supposed to look like and the dimensions and everything like that, but he's also chosen people who he wants to build it. Now, these people did not just come overnight with the ability to do these things. These were craftsmen that perhaps were craftsmen back in Egypt, because remember, Egypt had a lot of money and these were slaves. Slave labor is free, so you have the ability to be able to bring these people along when you've got slave labor. Then the amount of labor is not as important because you're not paying them an hourly wage. Basically, you're paying them for food. Maybe that's it, right? So you can afford, if you really, really want high craftsmen, you can afford to start to identify people who are really skilled at what they do, and you give them the opportunity to perfect their craft. Today, we might have somebody who's an electrician, and they might go to electrician school, or they might just work on an electrician team for a period of time, kind of learn the trade. And after 3 to 5 years, then they're a journeyman electrician, and they can do everything because they've done it so many times. They've seen the plans. They know how to interpret the plans. They know how to put that in the building. So this is the same thing. These are probably people that came out of Egypt and perfected their craft. And Moses hears from God that he wants him to use these two people, Bezalel and Oholiab. So this is rather specific. I find this interesting that God actually specifies who he wants to work on his temple. Because you'd think, well, as long as we've got the specifications down, that's good enough. But God's like, no, I want you to go one step further. I want you to get the best of the best, and this is the best of the best. This guy, Bezalel, is the guy who's going to kind of oversee all this. Oholiab is his assistant, and these are the people I want you to put in charge of building the temple. I want the highest craftsmanship you can possibly muster. Now, the interesting thing is that this is still, if you think about it, this is still out in the middle of nowhere. This is not a cathedral. This is not a building that's going to last for a long time. This tent, they roll up and they take with them. And all the artifacts that they put inside here is all stuff that they carry with them. This is a portable. When we started worship at back in 2005 for Christ Lutheran Vale, we borrowed Cienega High School dining auditorium. And so we brought in all the artifacts to create a place for worship on Sunday morning. Then we packed it all up and we took it out again. And we did that for 12 years or 15 years or however long it was. A long, long, long time. And but now these people are doing the exact same thing. They're packing it up and they're taking it with them. And so the pieces that are used are of high quality craftsmanship. And because they're of high quality craftsmanship, they're able to take this presence of God with them wherever they go. And they can go anywhere. They can go to any field. They can go in any part of the country and they can set up, and all of a sudden they have an instant tent of meeting, tabernacle for God. And eventually, all of this then goes to Jerusalem, where they build the ultimate temple and make that a place for God. But what God demands isn't necessarily, I think this is the main point of this, that God doesn't necessarily demand a specific location. How do I say this? What God demands from a particular people at a particular time is the best that they can produce with the materials and the skills and everything they have around them. That is, if that's not a definition of a church. So if a church is going to build, or if the church is going to construct, some churches might have land. And so they go and they build, something temporary on the land. Other churches might not have land, but they've got access to a place where they like a dining auditorium. And so they create church in the dining auditorium. The place, the design for the modern day church doesn't matter as much as the importance from God to look, to stop, to look, to see what resources you have, what skill sets you have, and to kind of take the best of that and create the best that you can for God. That truly is what God's looking for. He wants people to do the best they can under the resources that they have. And even in the modern day church, as we move, as different churches form and grow and do all those things, God isn't necessarily concerned about the final design of it as much as he is that we do the best that we can. Because not every church has the same resources as every other church. Even the people in the church might not have the same resources as people in another church. Some churches might have a lot of wealth. Some churches might have a lot of skill sets. Some people might have a lot of time. It depends upon what each church has, and it's the responsibility of this guy, Bezalel, to make sure that we maximize the skills that we do have. And it's God and Moses that kind of look and plan and say, okay, this is what we can do. And so this is what we're going to do. God told Moses, this is the skill set that you have in your group. And so this is what I want it to look like. And these will be lasting pieces that you can carry with you through the journey in the wilderness. Now, at this time, Moses, I don't think, had any idea that it was going to be 40 years in the wilderness. But God knew. And God knew that they would need to take these pieces with them from place to place because they would be in the wilderness for a very, very long time. And Bezalel, I looked it up. I think it means shadow of the Lord, which means the protection of God or the shadow of God, in the presence, in the shadow of God. Aholiab, I'm not sure what that means. Not as much of a Hebrew name as Bezalel is. All right, let's keep reading, because he goes on. The table, this is verse 8. The table and its articles, the pure gold lampstands and all its accessories, the altar of incense, the altar of burnt offering, and all of its utensils, the basin with its stand, and also the woven garments, both the sacred garments for Aaron the priest and the garments for his sons when they serve as priests, and the anointing oil and fragrant incense for the holy place. They are to make them just as I commanded you. So God now lists all the different pieces that he's just told Moses to construct. The table, its articles, the lampstand, the gold, that's the menorah, if you remember, all the accessories, the altar of incense, and all of this stuff. All of this, I've given you instructions, and now you need to go and you need to build it up. And so that's his instruction to Moses. So Moses says, okay, I can do that. But then God says something interesting. Now I've given you all this stuff, and you need to do it. Now, what would be the first thing that Moses would do? He'd go, okay, if Moses is, let's get things done kind of leader, he would go back to the people and go, okay, boom, 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 let's get this done, and work the people overtime to make sure that they get this done. But God reminds Moses that they're still under the 10 commandments. So let's look at that. So verse 12 of chapter 31. Then the Lord said to Moses, say to the Israelites, you must observe my Sabbaths. This will be a sign between me and you for the generations to come, so you may know that I am the Lord who makes you holy. Observe the Sabbath because it is holy to you. Anyone who desecrates it is to be put to death. Those who do any work on that day must be cut off from their people. For 6 days work is to be done, but the seventh day is a day of Sabbath rest, holy to the Lord. Whoever does any work on the Sabbath day is to be put to death. The Israelites are to observe the Sabbath, celebrating it for the generations to come as a lasting covenant. All right, we'll continue reading verse 17. It will be a sign between me and the Israelites forever, for in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, and on the seventh day he rested, and it was refreshed. When the Lord finished speaking to Moses on Mount Sinai, he gave him the 2 tablets of the covenant law, the tablets of stone inscribed by the finger of God. All right. So this is another warning from God that they are to observe the Sabbath. All of this stuff that they're doing to build the temple, the skill set, all of this stuff, still remember to take the Sabbath. And this, my friends, is, now you would think the punishment is death. You'd think that's a pretty high punishment for just violating the idea of working on the Sabbath. But you have to remember a couple things. First of all, God did create the Sabbath for man, not man for the Sabbath, as Jesus said. In other words, the Sabbath was created so that man should rest, because man, in his achievement mode, which many leaders are in achievement mode, let's get things done, many leaders forget about the fact that people need rest. They absolutely must have rest. And for me, I am a person who likes to work a lot. And so for me, Sabbath can be very, very hard. And it's taken me quite a long time in my journey on this earth to realize that I have to take care of myself. I have to make sure that I have times of rest. I have to make sure that I have times where I get away from everything and not have the struggles and the stresses of the day, bearing down upon me. And I have come to a place now where I am in my life where I understand this, and I think I do take fairly decent care of myself, because it's so easy, and it has been so in my life. When I look back at how much I did not follow this commandment very well, violated things that I shouldn't violate, to make sure that I was doing more and more and more. And at some point you realize that first and foremost, you have to follow God. You have to take the time to rest that God requires. And so it has taken me a long time to get here, but that's what I do. My encouragement to anybody who does work in the church particularly is that there has to be times of rest. And nobody's going to carve that out for you except you. and you can only do so much. So you have to carve out, you have to stay true and faithful to making sure that you carve out times of rest. And this is over and above our own needs, working for our own needs. And this is over and above the times that you might spend, volunteering for the church or volunteering, for any organization, really. At some level, deep down, God wants us all to make sure that we stop and we pause and we provide times of rest. And the only one that's going to be able to kind of enforce that in your life is you. And I don't know how to say that any more plain or any cleaner, because sometimes we realize that we are the ones that God has gifted with the skilled craftsmanship to make sure that things get done. And so everybody's waiting on, Oholiab and waiting on Bezalel to make sure that all this stuff gets built. And so you've got these people that are, basically alligators biting at their feet saying, okay, get this done, get this done, get this done. And it's really easy for people like Bezalel and Oholiab to say, okay, we've got to get this done. Let's work through Sabbath. But God says, no, I don't want you to. I know this is a difficult burden to put on you, but you need to take care of yourself. You have to have a Sabbath. It reminds you of the day of rest from creation, but it's also a time to recharge your batteries. Otherwise, it's going to be bad for you. And so this is why people, build, particularly people like even our current president, right? There are times in his life when he goes to Camp David or goes to wherever he is to make sure that he provides times of rest. And our current president is older, and so he needs, he needs to make sure that he has that time of rest. When you're young, in your 40s and 50s, right, time of rest isn't as important as you get older. But we need to carve that out. We need to make sure that our leaders do take that time of rest because they need it. And it's so easy to get overwhelmed. And then if your leader dies or if the people die because they haven't rested, well, where good is that? So that's why God put I don't know if God had anybody die. Like, I don't know if Moses put to death anybody who violated work on the Sabbath. I think that this prohibition by God and this charge of death wasn't put there because he wanted everybody to die. I think, and we don't have any recorded case of somebody who does work on the Sabbath throughout this whole construction period, right? It's a high bar that God sets because he doesn't want anybody working on the Sabbath. And if anybody does end up working on the Sabbath, I'm sure that there's a way to redeem that person. But what God is saying is that make sure you take time for yourself. The Sabbath was made for man. You have to take rest. It's so easy for people to put so much pressure around you to get things done that this idea of the Sabbath can go to the wayside. And then where are you? People who work. And man, this is so true with our culture today. We have instant communication. So if you are a manager like Moses or Bezalel, Bezalel, you are. It's so easy to get communication to lead people 24/7, and I'm not denying that happens. But there are times then, if you're living in today's world with today's instant communication, then you have to carve out for yourself specific times when you turn off the phone, you turn off the internet, you turn off all the ways of communication, and you make sure that you get your Sabbath rest. And it in today's world, it doesn't necessarily have to be on Sunday. It could be any time. For me, it's not on Sunday because I work on Sunday, and so for me, I take time in the morning every day. I take time. That's my Sabbath time to make sure that I'm kind of resting my batteries and getting prepared for God, for what He wants me to do for the day. That's kind of, it seems like that's the only time for me that works, because my job is a 24/7 job, and it seems like, Even when I try to carve out a day, it never happens. So I've had to learn and shift and try to find different ways to make sure that I'm being healed, that I'm being, I'm taking Sabbath time. So I do that. And I would encourage everybody to do that also. And then the second lesson from here is that we want to give our very best to God. Whatever our very best looks like, we want to give our very best to God. And it's going to look different from congregation to city, with resource to resource. But that doesn't stop us from doing our very, very best that we can. And so that's what we do. All right. Well, I think we'll end it there, because what happens next is if you've ever seen the movie, The 10 Commandments, Moses goes up to Mount Sinai. He gets the 10 tablets, the 2 tablets from God with the 10 Commandments. He comes down. And if you'll remember, Aaron and the people of Israel, with Moses gone, have been busy doing something that God does not want them to do. And so this then becomes a major, major issue, makes Moses so angry the tablets actually get broken. So we'll get into that tomorrow, but let's go ahead and close in prayer. Gracious God, thank you for this time together. Thank you for showing Moses how to get this temple constructed. And thank you for commanding that we should take rest, that we should take Sabbath, because you created that for us. And thank you for that, Lord. Be with us until we meet again, and keep us ever in your grace. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so that's for today, the end. And again, thank you for joining me. I pray that you have a wonderful day for the rest of the day, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.